Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, where we're going to be looking at access to markets, and we're going to be having that conversation with York Zucchi. He is a face that you recognize everywhere. He's active on social media, and I'm absolutely happy to have him join us this morning to share some tips, talk to us a little bit more about his courses and various other insights he can share with us when it comes to the entrepreneurship space. York, thank you so much for your time.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, I mentioned in the intro that a lot of people will recognize your face on social media. You're very active on LinkedIn, on Twitter as well. But there may be some who may not be familiar with your background. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about yourself for those who may not know.
Sure. I'm York, Swiss born, lived and worked in a number of countries, I think 11 countries so far. Worked for 9 different companies, got fired 7 times. And 2 times I quit just before they could fire me. And in the process, made a bit of money, decided to become an entrepreneur in 2007 when my father passed away, moved to South Africa because at the time my colleague Jim O'Neill at Goldman Sachs said, York, Africa is a place to be. The world's attention is turning towards this amazing continent. So of course, coming from big corporate, I knew everything. Landed in South Africa, promptly started 6 businesses, 5 failed within 9 months. So I hope anybody who needs help failing the business quickly, I'm quite an expert. The 6 business ended up employing about 1,800 people. And then I started other businesses, but all the, let's call it the unifying glue is that they have to make a difference to people's lives. So that's my passion. And it was also the reason why we started the Center for Unconventional Entrepreneurship, because from the work we've done supporting entrepreneurs around the world, we see that people are just making the same mistakes again and again. And I really don't think we should reinvent the wheel.
Right. And already just from that, that colorful background, I have like thousands of questions just running through my head. And I just want to encourage everybody to just, use the Q&A facility and chat facility to load your questions. You can kickstart them now, because I'm pretty sure York has said many things there that have just triggered many questions. For me, the one question has to be, when you made that decision to go into entrepreneurship, is this a decision that you made because you were fired, or is this something that was always in you, that you've always wanted to pursue that path anyway?
I mean, now without this becoming a York show, but I always loved projects more than I loved employment. So I jestingly say I got fired, but I tend to create things, projects in companies that don't require me forever. So I love making myself redundant. And in a way, that is the foundation of a good entrepreneur. Now, obviously, it depends on your personal circumstances, ambitions, but too many entrepreneurs are the bottleneck in their own businesses. So if you want, I was a corporate entrepreneur, starting projects within companies, and then one day realizing, hold on, why don't I try it for myself? Obviously not knowing the hills that I still had to learn in terms of knowledge and an experience and understanding. So that's why I became an entrepreneur, because I wanted more freedom to pursue what I love doing, which is making an impact.
I honestly don't think you'd have to be afraid of it being the York show. And the reason I say that is because, over my years of speaking to, various CEOs and entrepreneurs, there's always so much to learn from other people's mistakes and experiences, and you can avoid those mistakes yourself and save yourself the time and get to the business of working on what's important. And I think a lot of people here might relate to some of the things you mention as we go along. But before we get into, some of the insights you may have picked up about, what entrepreneurs are struggling with, let's talk about the entrepreneurial landscape from the moment you touched down in South Africa right up until now. What have you learned when you look at it from a South African perspective?
Well, first, that I think South Africa and sub-Saharan Africa to a greater degree is a land of opportunities. There's a tendency to have a bit of a cowboy capitalism culture, which is everybody can do everything. You have the young gentleman in Deep Sloot who has no problem submitting a tender for $500 million rands to build a power station. so I love this I can do it. It doesn't matter if I don't know how to do it. I'll figure it out. But having said that, what I did see is an incredible willingness to cooperate, to work together, to do things. You can do things that you can't do in many other countries because maybe the capital outlay or the regulatory environment is too strict. Now, having said that, I view South Africa as a testing ground, like the SABS, the Bureau of Standards. When you have an idea and you can make it work in South Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, I guarantee it will work anywhere in the world. Because here you have to deal with inconsistencies in electricity, in regulatory, in supplies, in skill sets. And so this is a phenomenal platform to beta test almost any idea that you have. My only, let's say, frustration is that people still do a lot this with their businesses instead of cooperating more. But you know, that's, the grass isn't that much greener on the other side.
Well, and we'll talk about that what you just described there, but over the years, when you look at the conversation around entrepreneurial issues, we get the issue around access to capital, and the important issue we're going to be talking about today, access to markets. So let's expand on those a little bit. I mean, which do you want to focus on more as an entrepreneur? Is it the fact that I need capital to be able to get off the ground? Or is it the fact that I've got this idea, I've invested in it, now it's all about getting it out there because maybe majority of my capital that I do need is out there actually in the markets and not with the funders?
Mm. So you raise a good point, and it talks really about the support ecosystem for entrepreneurs. And obviously, you kind of need a little bit of everything. You need skills, you need capital. It doesn't need to be funding, it can be financing. You need access to markets, which is composed of both lead generation as well as your ability to close deals and deliver on customer promise. And then, of course, you got a lot of other things. But I think too many entrepreneurs, and I speak now as somebody who done a lot of work supporting entrepreneurs in over 83 countries, and in South Africa particularly, I'm involved in a lot of initiatives, including I chair the funding committee at the Innovation Hub, where we invest in a lot of entrepreneurs. And so we see a lot of business plans, proposals, and the section around how we're going to get commercial traction is usually tiny. There's this big, thick wad about how important it is, how big the market is, and but actually how you're going to do it is minimal. And access to market is not particularly difficult. And I hope today we can get to talk a little bit about some tricks that people can do today immediately that cost no money. But doesn't mean you'll be successful. There's many variables in growing a business. But I personally think too many entrepreneurs are spending too much time on their product and service, on the idea, and not enough time on lead generation.
Yeah. In doing research for this webinar that we're having, this conversation, I mean, you just type in access to markets on Google and you get a whole host of articles, some dating back as recent as last year, some going back to 2015, all talking about how access to market is one of the biggest issues that South African entrepreneurs experience. So why is that the case? Because they all have a common thread in terms of the problems that are out there.
Well, first I want to just clarify that it isn't just a South African issue. Yeah. Access to market is a global issue. If you look at the European Union, they have an incredibly well-designed website full of incredible resources by the European Union for any startup and small business. Yet the access to market is completely missing. So it's access to finance, skills, incubation program, tenders, opportunities, everything, but nothing on access to market. Now, why are so few people pursuing this? I have a feeling it has to be a little bit because of a service industry that's trying to milk entrepreneurs for money for help in accessing clients or lead generation. So you got, and I don't mean it disrespectfully, but you got digital agencies trying to push you to buy an ad campaign on Facebook. You got organizations that do cold calling, and you've got a whole industry set around trying to persuade you that you cannot generate leads on your own, but you should actually buy their products and services. Now, in some cases, it is true, and especially when it comes to scaling your lead generation capability. But I think that's part of the reason why so many entrepreneurs are a little bit cautious when saying, well, I need to generate leads, I don't know how, and when they research it, it's a jumble of service providers trying to sell you services.
Which I then suppose, leads quite nicely into why you then made the decision to launch this course, focusing on access to markets. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, it's not so much that I launched a course, but rather this is a course that I've been doing over the last 7-8 years. Probably I've done 500 workshops, speaking engagement, lecturing based on this material. A version of it was actually in November in front of 14,000 people at the Coca-Cola Dome. But the point here is it's something that I've been doing for the longest of time and really have seen the effects that fine-tuning what and how you do things can have on your ability to generate leads. And apart from the course itself, these are tools and practices that come from our observation and our work with so many entrepreneurs around the world. So it's really cherry picking the best of what everybody is doing around the world, what works and what doesn't, and bring it into a course. Now, obviously, COVID made me think, hold on a second, I can't continue to be the bottleneck to knowledge sharing. So how can we bring this course into a format that makes people now in their homes, in the co-working spaces, in the cottage, it doesn't matter where, start being able to generate leads. And as we all know, the cliche is, without clients, you don't have a business, you have a hobby.
So how does this course work? I mean, how many people can register? Could you register at any time and still, continue from, if you missed a particular lesson? How does it all work out?
Okay, so the technology is a typical learning management system. It's called Thinkific, one of the world's most used ones. And you sign up for the course, and it's 59 lessons. And these lessons, however, don't expect them to do them in a couple of days. They are intentionally designed. So, for example, a lesson might have a 1-minute or 3-minute video, and then 2 paragraphs. But it's really about an exercise. So almost every single lesson is a very practical exercise that you do in the comfort of your home and implement immediately. So I'm not expecting you to do 59 lessons and then only start generating leads. I can give you a practical example. You own LinkedIn, and probably many of the participants today are on LinkedIn. I'll give you the coolest trick in the world. And it's actually one of the nicest tricks. LinkedIn is exceptionally powerful. Now, it's not for everybody, but if you are selling to people who you want them, who need to have a certain purchasing power, LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform. Now, I go to your LinkedIn profile and I write your recommendation. And I say, you know what? You were such an incredible host today. I really enjoyed the structure of your questions, how you da. And I share about the experience and really also in the process gloat a little bit about the work that I do. You helped me unpackage this course in a better light, blah, blah, blah. But I'm complimenting you. Now, when I press send, you're going to get a notification that says York has recommended you. You read it, and then you'll approve it. You'll feel great about it because I've complimented you publicly. It's now on your LinkedIn profile, but you know what I just did? You have a piece of real estate. Your LinkedIn profile is a piece of real estate. You now have my name, what I do, and a little bit about my company on your LinkedIn profile. So you are actually going to be advertising me for, well, as long as your LinkedIn profile is in existence. Now, how wonderful is that? You get the chance to actually make somebody feel good, but at the same time generate publicity for you.
Is it one of the issues that you're seeing as well, in the sense that, you know, there's so many social media platforms, it's all about, I suppose, deciding which one is the right fit? How do you then, you know, make that decision? I mean, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's people experimenting on Instagram, there's LinkedIn, there's so much out there. How do you decide?
Look, I'm not a social media expert, so my focus is on lead generation, and thanks to the platforms like YouTube, you can really find incredible experts who can tell you the ins and outs of every single platform. But for me, it comes to really understanding two things. One, where are you in the business life cycle? So if you have an idea, you're at an idea phase, then you start doing some traction where you create a prototype. You get a 2, 3, 4, 5 clients, 10 clients, 50, 2,000. Then it's starting dying off. Then you need business rescue. And then you close a business, hopefully not. Now, the reason I mentioned this, at each one of those phases, you'll have different types of clients. You'll have different types of structure and support requirements for your clients. You'll have different sales methodologies and correspondingly also different tools that you'll be using. So I'll give you a practical example. I'm a big fan of starting businesses with no money, just time and a bit of sweat. And what I mean by that, I don't mean that you can grow a business from 0 to 10,000 clients with no financing. You will need financing somewhere down the line. But in that process, there's ways to test the market, whether there is a real interest for your products and services. Now, if you have an idea, don't go to an angel investor. There's very little funding for ideas. There is, but it's very little in statistical terms. What I always suggest is don't find an angel investor, find an angel client, a client who is interested in your product because it really resonates with them. And that client is going to be the one who's going to go on a journey with you, who's going to recommend you, fine tune your service, go back and forth and so forth. And so that is why I say at that stage, you will need certain tools. Maybe you don't actually need Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and what have you not. I'll give you a practical example. What I do is I create online courses and I do little vlogs and so forth. You've probably heard of TikTok, who hasn't, thanks to Trump. But TikTok is actually a phenomenal educational platform. Now, this may sound crazy. You say, what do you mean TikTok is a sharing quick videos? And you say, yes, but why not create a school for entrepreneurship for young people on TikTok? 1-minute lessons. So my point here is you don't need all the platforms. You need to find the one where you think your audience is engaging with.
Right. I suppose this question has just come in, ties in quite nicely with what you were saying about, you know, the life cycle of a business. And the question says, how do you know when you're running too fast in the startup development and scaling process?
So, it's a bit difficult. It's a bit like asking somebody who loves jogging if they're running too slow, too fast. You know, I'm not a jogger. If I run next to you and you're a jogger, you'll run 10 times faster than I am. So, you know, speed or velocity is relative to what you can cope with. If you're about to have a heart attack, slow down. Now, I come from a slightly different school, but I like taking it slow. And let me unpack that a little bit more. We live in an age right now where we're under constant pressure to do more, achieve more, grow fast, increase your turnover, have more clients. And in this process, in this pressure pot, we often forget to start treating our clients with the respect they deserve. We treat them as stepping stones to the next client, to the next financial target. Now, on that, in that, let's call it, from that angle rather, my suggestion is always slow down. Let's say in the next 3 to 6 months, all I want is 10 clients, not 500 clients. Yes, I would love 500 clients. The ambitious York at the back of my head says, ooh, I want more clients. But what actually happens on a very practical level when you have too many clients is you are not able to cope. First, your back office and your processing and systems and so forth go completely backlogged. The second thing is that you are not engaging with your clients anymore. I can't sit down with you because you bought my course and ask you, what did you think? How did you? That's why, for example, and I'll give you a practical example based on our course. When we launched it globally, and we asked 165 people to take the course. Now, that was over 4 months, 4 or 5 months. And I got incredible feedback, like what works, how do we change, how does the learning, some misunderstanding where I thought it was clear. And so we got incredible feedback. Now, had I received 1,000 subscribers to the course, I would have never had time to engage one-on-one with the people and really absorb and then fine tune and sit down and say, okay, that was interesting. Let me think how I can change my offering. This is why as much as we're all under pressure to achieve more, I suggest sometimes slowing down. Have spare time so that you can actually sit down with a book and with a pen, scribble ideas. Don't be manically busy.
Right. The one other thing that's always, been a recurring question over the years is whether entrepreneurs are too guarded when it comes to their ideas. Because I suppose the only way you're going to be able to generate leads and have people know about what you do and help you with any issue you may be having is when you're open and say, this is my idea, this is what I've been doing, or this is what I've been working on. And perhaps it could be a word of mouth kind of thing with people, you start to generate leads that way. How do you get over that guardedness? I mean, you described it quite nicely a little bit earlier on where you had like the arms around. How do you move past that?
Look, so I sit, like I said before, I sit on the innovation hubs, sort of where we make, and in there we're thrown with a stream of amazing ideas. Often, many of them come from the government's CSRR, which is really a pot of intellectual property. So there's two schools of thoughts. There's one that says, no, don't share too much. Your IP is valuable. You can commercialize your IP. And it's true. There are, and ask any university from the patenting office, or not the patenting office, I forgot the name, but there's an office now that takes an IP, an idea, and helps you commercialize it. I come from the school of thought that says ideas are worth nothing. Now, that's not entirely true. I do believe ideas are worth something. But the only difference between a wannabe entrepreneur and a real entrepreneur is the ability to implement that idea. Now, the cliche in that, of course, is a classic. Everybody knows it. But the point here is, if your idea is so weak that anybody can jump in and copy it on day one, just because I heard you speak about it, let's be real, guys and girls. This is a world where people have jobs. They're not going to quit your jobs because I heard you speak about your idea. One. Second, you don't have to be stupid about how you share an idea. Give you a practical example. We launched quite a big initiative now. It's actually launching tonight for, I think, 3 to 7 million people. And that's the size of the channel. So we don't know the viewership. If it's 3 or 7, we'll know after the show. Now, we launched an initiative, and before that, we were sharing it left, right, and center on Facebook, on LinkedIn, all the details, the business model, the revenue stream, partnership opportunities, who we're looking for, what we're struggling with. And we got so much value from people coming on board and saying, have you tried this? Why don't you? Including competitors say, I think we're competitors, and then when you unpack it, we're not. In any case, the point here is when you share, you actually are inviting an opportunity to fine-tune your business idea for much more and much cheaper than if you launch a product and then nobody wants it and nobody is interested in. Now, to finish this long monologue, apologies, is really to say, don't be stupid in how you share it. So you don't have to give away everything. Give away enough that it shows that you understand what you're doing, but there's clarity. But you don't have to say, I'm currently working with a big client and here's a client name and the contact details. You know, you can be open without being stupid about it.
The next question from, one of the participants says, how do you get over being rejected by a potential client?
Oh. How do you get over it? Now, it's an interesting question on that because so I'm a little bit of a not born salesperson. I hate selling. I absolutely detest it. But I do absolutely love if I can match a good service to exactly the person who is a perfect fit for that. So when there's not a fit, the client says no. But you could unpack with many different types of clients no's. You have clients who say no, it's not the right time, or we have clients who are undecided because maybe they don't trust you quite yet. They may like the product and the services, but who are you? If I pay you now 500 rand, 10,000 rand, whatever the amount is for your product, are you really going to be able to deliver it? So sometimes the no has to be a little bit more focused or unpacked. Well, what was the reasoning for the no? Have you ever seen a movie called The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes.
So Jordan Belfort, for all his faults, wrote a fantastic book. And in the movie, he talks about it. And he calls it the straight line method. He says, don't ever go for people who say no. Go for anybody who says almost no, and then your job is to get them from almost no on a straight line to a yes. And he identified 5 different reasons why people say no. I don't want to go now too much into the book, but essentially says, well, maybe you're the problem. They don't trust you. Maybe they don't know the product or service, or products is not, whatever. There is often more to a no than just no. So I see a no not as a personal attack, but more as a, ooh, somebody is saying I didn't persuade them properly. So I wonder, I know you said no, dear client, could I just bother you to help me as an entrepreneur grow? Could you tell me what was that made you decide on a no? And there's absolutely no pressure. I would just love to get your feedback to help us entrepreneurs. And then you start a dialogue, then you get an emotional buy-in. And then the next thing you watch a no, unless it was a hard no, starting to turn to a yes. So I can't tell you that a no is pleasant, but don't see a no as a personal rejection of you. See no as a feedback mechanism to help you improve the next time you go and sell your product.
The next question says, I'm an engineer with 20 years experience. However, my current entrepreneurial idea covers the financial sector, which is not what I'm strong at, but I want to get all the resources required to gather any advice. And I suppose this question is about when you're working in one sector, but your entrepreneurial idea is in a sector you may not necessarily have experience in. How do you navigate that?
So I'm a big, huge fan of partnerships. Now, if you are in banking and I'm in healthcare and we want to develop a new financial product for nurses or caregivers, I'm not going to try and invent the wheel from scratch. Not that I'm not intelligent, or, well, in my case, it's an assumption, but not that there isn't enough intelligence to figure things out. But there's incredible value from somebody who truly understands an industry, the regulatory environment, the ins and outs, how people think about the products and services creation, packaging, and et cetera, et cetera. So I am a great fan of partnership. Notice I said partnership. Now, I didn't say get married with somebody and start a business together. I say go on a couple of dates together. You know, you are in finance, I'm in healthcare. I've got an idea. Why don't we spend a couple of months brainstorming if this idea has traction? There's much to be said about that, because first you get to learn about the person if they're really committed. Everybody is excited on a first date. Okay, everybody wants to get married, start a business, thinks it's the best thing on the first date, but you really want to get to know your partner. So that's why maybe have an agreement, have a discussion, and you could argue, yeah, but what if they steal my idea? And again, it goes back to the original. If your idea needs them 90% more than they need you, then maybe, you know, it wasn't a equitable balancing act. Maybe you're not bringing enough value. Maybe you're not opening the network. So there's many ways of creating a balance where you are bringing enough that the other person is too scared of stealing your idea and going, because they need what you have, your network, your knowledge, your insights, your gut feeling and trends analysis. So I really think find somebody you can work with, maybe 2-3 people in the first initial phase, and see how you can create something that might be a little bit of a compromise to your original idea. But I'm a big fan, as the cliche goes, of a small slice of a larger pie, rather than having everything of nothing.
The next question says, how does one manage the novice status as a new business in the midst of a global market?
Of a global market, I presume in a global crisis. So I'll be controversial here. I think COVID was the best thing that's ever happened to humanity. Now, I don't mean it for the people who died. I don't mean it for the people who suffered. But we were in such a hamster wheel of consumption, ridiculous way that we were working. We in a completely unsustainable way. We were destroying the planet, destroying each other, all in the sake of growing, getting more, renting more real estate, fancier offices, more retail space. It was idiotic. And in a way, COVID, like Professor Galloway from the US said, he's a guy who took down WeWork. He says COVID didn't change the world, it just accelerated the rate of change. So for a lot of startups who before had major blockages in front of them because, I don't know, let's say the startup wanted to make amazing Ndebele cups of coffee and then needed to now rent a retail space in a nice location. They needed refurbishment, deposits, they needed the rent, they needed an infrastructure which made the startup hurdle way too high and completely inaccessible for most. Now I generalize, of course there's exceptions. But COVID came along and said, slap, 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 you have to figure out and reinvent yourself. Now, the really ingenuine or innovative entrepreneurs have done that. They started recreating the service offering. We get our vegetables delivered by a young lady who lives in Soweto, and she grows crops, and she does every Thursday deliveries of vegetables, and it's cheaper than Woolies or Pick and Pay, and fresher. And I'm kind of going, guys, there's a market of people now who are working from home who need specific services. But here's my advice to startups. Focus, have a niche, don't be a generalist. Don't be you're not a website developer. You help small shops go online and sell more. You're not a bookkeeper. You are a specialist at helping small businesses or small business owners free up their time so they can focus more on sales and bringing income. You see where I'm going? You need to repackage your expertise in a way that solves the person's problem. But of course, this is a generalist statement, and my contact is very easy to find me, so you're most welcome to, for the person who asked the question, to also drop me a tweet or a LinkedIn message.
Okay. The next question says, during this time, I've been sending cold emails to introduce my solution. 90% of these emails don't get a response, even after follow-ups. how do I get a response? Or perhaps in this case, how do I encourage a response? Or does the person walk away?
Mm. So I am not a big fan of emails, certainly not cold emails. Now, this is partially what I've been developing the course for. And as this constant, we're trying to do all the mistakes that other entrepreneurs do. And I have actually, out of a 59 lesson, I think it's like four and a half lessons only on the power of email if used correctly and how to use it and set it up. But it goes back to your trust, your link, your connection to somebody. And email is lands on your inbox, which is already, I find personally, and we've seen with a lot of people, an invasion of my space. So there are tons of incredibly easy, that cost nothing, effective ways where you can start creating a connection with somebody. You know, Simon Sinek, did this wonderful TED talk that people buy into your why. And I'm now talking obviously to entrepreneurs and professionals who are today listening, who sell something, who are not yet working for a large corporate structure. But so if I sent you an email and I said, "Oh, please, will you buy this mouse?" You'll say, "Well, okay, but I don't need a mouse. B, who the fuck? Sorry, I almost swore. Who the hell are you? What do you want from me? How do I trust that this mouse is good?" Whereby my approach is, start building a relation with that person on LinkedIn. Create content that specifically focuses on your expertise. For example, if I'm the mouse creator, I might do a vlog like this. I take my tablet and I say, "Hey, everybody, today I'm testing 5 different mice. What's a plural of a mouse? Mice." And I just want to tell you, here's my 5 recommendation. These 2 are shit. This one is okayish. These 2 are the better one. And one of them, I'm actually developing a prototype. Here's a costing, here's and so forth. And so you start building credibility. Now, why is that important? People who are looking for a mouse, are going to be interested in your content. They're going to start trusting you. And then they're actually going to connect with you rather than a cold call. Now, you might argue, is it worth doing all that effort to sell a mouse? My argument is it doesn't take a lot of effort, but that video where I review 5 mice can actually be used again and again on your website, on your social media, on LinkedIn, on your engagement. And it's a piece of marketing. You don't have to review every mouse out there. So build a connection, build a relationship, because then you are top of mind when the person needs a mouse. But make sure, and that's what I say to the question before that you're very niche, that there's no confusion about what you do or what you sell. Because we entrepreneurs have this habit of wanting to sound important. I am the CEO, the chairperson, the chief financial blah, blah, blah of a company with a fancy name. And we don't even know. Look at your Facebook profile. If I went to your Facebook profile at the banner on top of your Facebook, what does your banner show?
My specific banner shows my TED Talk.
Very good. And do you sell TED Talks?
No, I do not.
Okay. What do you sell?
Emceeing and moderating. So I am on stage.
Emceeing and moderating. So there I would put a collection of photos of some of your more glamorous events. And then if you need a kick-ass moderator, email me on. Now, I fully understand and appreciate that Facebook is a private platform, but think about all your friends that constantly go visit your profile every time you post something trivial or important. It doesn't matter. And now they have your banner, which just sits there and reminds everybody of what you do. Now, through that repetition, you are actually brainwashing your friends in telling them, guys, girls, friends, family, uncles, cousins, if you know anybody who's doing an MC job, I'm the person to call. So the same goes with any social media platform. You don't have to be crass about it. But I'm saying make it easy for people to figure out what you sell.
On that note, then, I suppose it ties in quite nicely with this question that's just come in, and it says, I'm a social entrepreneur. Would the marketing rules be different for me?
So I'm not entirely sure what a social entrepreneur is. Is it somebody who does good, like a
I think
non-for-profit?
it's somebody whose job it is to solve problems in South Africa, whether you are delivering water to communities that may have issues or online education in the township areas.
So it's very simple. So I used to be in the healthcare space for 7 years, and we built up this company, quite a large one. Even Harvard Business School wrote a case on what we did, or used as a case for all the teachings. And I was absolutely passionate about doing good, improving healthcare. I'm not talking about hospitals. I'm talking primary healthcare, rural clinics, retirement, frail care centers. And I started as a do good, but I was constantly with my begging bowl going to corporates, and it was tiring and exhausting. So we came up by trial and error with a model that allowed sustainability. So, and that sustainability, meaning an income, allowed us to grow our business substantially, to really plow resources, know-how, knowledge, experience, expertise, technology. And so the answer is no, nothing's different between what you do and what others do. Maybe what you sell is different, but in some ways, what you sell is an easier sell than somebody who sells something purely on a commercial level. I'll give you a practical example. Last week, we started the Startup Tribe Initiative, which is an initiative to bring on board global entrepreneurship ambassadors to become brand carriers, flag carriers for the startup mentality. It just means you put startup ambassador on your profile and a little copy paste text, and it's basically advertising that you support and are proud to support startups. Now, who doesn't want to support a startup? We're not asking for money, we're not asking for time or specific commitment, we're just asking you to wave the flag, to create awareness. We got hundreds of people signing up for this, literally in, I think it's been 5 days actually, it's been 5 days. So my point here is, as a social entrepreneur, you're probably working on a cause that you will find a market for, a market who's passionate to support you. What you got to make it easy for people to buy in, not only straight away with money, and then start working that relationship like we talked previously here on this webinar, really about connecting, getting the buy-in. When there's a real connection, trust, and buy-in, I promise you, your network will start helping you achieve what is it you're struggling with, or solving what you're struggling with.
Right. The next question, maybe you might know a little bit more about this. It reads, what should entrepreneurs be doing at 7:25 at night? I'm not sure whether this probably relates to something you're launching tonight or you're doing tonight, York. Maybe you...
Repeat, what was it?
The question says, what should entrepreneurs be doing at 7:25 at night? And I'm not sure whether you might know what the participant is talking about.
So as I'll tell you what you should be doing, you should be reading a book. Okay, I'll explain just now exactly what I'm doing, but it's not important. The point here is, guys, girls, put down your work sometimes. Now, you're entrepreneurs, so I know that you're consumed by your idea, you know, the business and you, but maybe not even much difference. But it's so crucial that you start enjoying reading books. I'm not talking about thrillers, but there's some unbelievable books. I'm just looking in my library here. I'll soon, I've got a mental block, but there's incredible business books, incredible books that completely change your perspective around hiring, sales. I talked about the straight line method. There are, it's all on my tablet, so I can't really look it now, but I've got a list of about 200 books. During COVID, I've read some 40 books. And in those 40 books, I started writing notes, and it was, wow, I was stuck on how to position something, and that gave me a brilliant idea. And I scribbled. I carry this notebook everywhere. I'm a paper and pencil kind of guy, except for reading. And I write ideas, and I go, "Oh, this is amazing!" And the act of writing makes me then fine tune the. So it's so important, and that's why I say it right at the beginning about creating time, not to rush too much. It is so crucial to allow yourself to be stimulated by other things. That doesn't mean Netflix. It doesn't mean cinema. I don't know if cinemas are open even. But it doesn't mean Facebook. That's not stimulation. It means reading interesting articles, books, and so forth. Now, tonight we are launching the Startup Tribe, which is an initiative to help 10 million startups around the world. People who have an idea, so it may not be today's audience, who have an idea but don't know how to go from idea to first couple of steps. They all think that we need money, and I come from the school of thought that says no money is needed. We're doing this with a very large church. As you probably know, in Africa, churches are not just places of worship, but they're also chambers of commerce. And so they offer an enormous reach to help a lot of people who are struggling on the continent.
On that then, one of these participants that we have on could easily, go and tell their friends to, listen to the playback facility and share it, amongst each other. And perhaps they may not be the audience who might be interested in the startup one that you're launching tonight, but perhaps you can share a little bit more in terms of other work that you're doing, other courses that you're thinking of launching. Perhaps there might be somebody else amongst the participants who might want to pass on that information to a friend or a family member.
So we got a nice website. It's called thestartuptribe.org. And there you can find a lot of the courses, both free and at a slight premium. Now, we have right now roughly 25 courses that are coming online in the next couple of weeks, up to 2-3 months. The thing that makes what we do slightly differently is we're not here to make you a better educated person. We're not here to teach you the intricacies of HR or contract law, or how to start a company, meaning how to register a company at the CIPC or in other jurisdiction in countries. We focus on extremely practical knowledge that you can use immediately to help your bottom line. And so, for example, the one course that we were talking today about, which is how to find clients, is really based where every single lesson is designed to get you one step further, to make you one step better than you were yesterday when you didn't have that lesson. Because I truly believe we don't have time to be neuroscientists of entrepreneurship. I want us to get commercial traction. The best teacher in this exciting roller coaster that is entrepreneurship is experience, is walking the path. You can watch as many vlogs and videos and talks and what have you not as you want, but unless you walk it, you won't know it. I did once a speaking engagement, and I said entrepreneurship is a bit like being in love. You can talk about it as much as you like, but until you've actually tried it, you won't know how it feels. And so I invite everybody to be in love, to open your heart, but being the entrepreneur who also failed and has seen the pain that comes with failure firsthand. I also put in my courses a lot of advice, practical things you can do to reduce the risk of failure. And this is why I often say the successful entrepreneurship is not a leap to success. It's not one lucky break. That's nonsense. It almost never happens. The success is composed of thousands of ultra tiny steps. Now, the advantage to this, it's a bit frustrating because it takes a long time, but the advantage to this is when you make small steps, imagine you're walking slowly, and you stumble a little bit, but because you're walking slowly, it's easy to recover. And so that's why I always suggest tiny baby steps. Trust me, you'll thank me.
The next question says, I am starting an online music school. Is it too early? Yeah. Is it too early to make it international since it's online, or should I just focus on getting students locally?
I don't know the format of a school, obviously, and so forth, but I kind of go, with the, if I'm assuming the entrepreneurs in South Africa, you have a fantastic exchange rate. If you go on the same time zone, you have roughly 1 billion people, the whole of Europe, you have the whole of Africa, who have a much stronger purchasing power. Now, music school has to be very focused. Who are you teaching specifically? Not the whole spectrum. Who are you? So there's a lot of things you can niche, and then with that niche, start building. And this is one of the things that I teach in the course is, so how do you get those clients? How do you find clients? I have a friend who does, who he helps growing business, so not startups, growing businesses, fine tune their sales efforts. And what he's done now is focus much more on Germany, Germany, UK, and then Sweden. And he says, for those, we're in the same time zone, my track record is excellent, and for those, what I'm asking in rents, it's a joke, it's a cup of coffee at this local Starbucks. So yes, focus internationally. If you don't have to meet your clients face to face, which obviously, I guess the online part kicks in.
Does the access to networks, the challenge around that, is it similar to the access to markets, or are they two completely, different issues?
I love your question. Thank you for asking. So access to markets is actually fundamentally an access to networks challenge. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you have amazing, not let's say, there are unbelievable entrepreneurs in Deep Sloot who, by nature of where they're located, don't have the networks that you or me might have in Sandton or in Cape Town CBD or something, or in other countries. So they are in this circle called Deep Sloot. Now, in the circle of Deep Sloot, you can have the multiple small circles. And it's very difficult to break from the circle of Deep Sloot to the circle of Sandton. This is why in the course I cover this quite extensively, and I teach you how to create what I call engagement bridges, which is a bridge that you can create without spending any money that gets you a foot in the door of a Sandton network. This is why it is, often in many countries like Brazil, the favelas, in South Africa, the townships. It's changing, but why access to market is really a problem with access to networks, and why so many people have been excluded from those networks.
All right. So the next question is a little bit long, but we'll get through it. It says, I sell products through a small retailer, but I want to scale into the likes of Woolworths and PEP and enable local communities to sell locally. I promote local artists' work and design products in all 11 languages, plus printed locally. I find that due to COVID, it's very hard getting into the retail space or local communities. Any thoughts on scaling in the retail space, not considering online channels?
Okay, so I strongly urge you not to go the big retail route. I've never been a fan of small business selling to big corporates. I don't mean it, I'm not against big corporates per se. I just, you're fighting with another 100,000 people who want to sell to Woolworths. You're fighting, you're competing, you've got onboarding requirement, quality control, safety. You've got to, you've got to find the cash flow. Okay, there are tools, mechanism for that, but the cash flow to produce the kind of quantities that Woolworths needs. Now, it's not against Woolworths. This is a typical case where us entrepreneurs are so excited and so blinded by this big behemoth of a large corporate that we say, oh, yes, we'll bend backwards for you. Why not think innovatively? So let me come up with a couple of ideas for you while we're at it. I am currently based, what is this neighborhood called? Parkhurst. In 4th Avenue in Parkhurst, there's a lovely coffee shop called Bloom. And they're actually a co-working space / coffee shops where they teach young baristas how to run a coffee shop. Now, I walk there and there's lots of shelves. Now they are already a well-intentioned organization. Their rent is already covered through ESD and the sales of coffees and pastries. So why not, instead of buying premium retail or competing, why not go where your potential customers are? Things that are, but don't sell crap that is irrelevant to somebody sitting there. Sell cool phone covers with Ndebele art, if you have something like that, or coffee mugs with the I'm Zulu and I'm proud. I don't know, make up something funky that the audience is sitting in a coffee store, and then you split the revenue with a coffee store owner, help them get more revenue. Do you see where I'm going? Now you're accessing communities, and you're skipping the whole onboarding and supply chain, onerous supply chain requirements of a big corporates.
You mentioned earlier that COVID was, call it a blessing in disguise, in terms of that the fact that it's forced people to relook at certain situations, be it from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective when it comes to your spending habits and various other things. From the conversations and the engagements you're getting on social media and whoever you're talking to, what are some of the things that have come to the fore that other entrepreneurs have said, hold on, I may have had to relook at that you could share with us, and perhaps it might give some of our participants something to think about, and they're probably battling with the same thing?
Okay, so I love that question. So here's the thing, what I suggest to everybody. Grab a piece of paper and draw a nice line straight down the middle. I'm sorry, it's drawing straight down like this is almost impossible. I want you to write on the top, on the one side, wants, on the other side, needs. And this is an exercise I do with a lot of startups who think they need a nice office, who think they need a brand new bakkie, or the latest phone, or a brand new laptop, or tablet, or this, or that, or they need a fancy CRM software, client relationship management. We are victims of a world that is driven, that is focused on separating us from our money. And so sometimes we don't know anymore what we want and what we need. And that is why I was saying maybe this was a fantastic blessing in disguise, because it makes you say, hold on a second. Yes, I may earn less money because I can't walk the streets and knock on all the doors, but I'm also spending less money. Now I realize I can actually do a lot of work from home or from a coffee shop or a co-working space. My point here is separate the needs from the wants. And that will save you first enormous headaches. You know, you can buy refurbished, excuse me, next to Century City, there is, I forgot, PC Unlimited, I think it's called. They take laptops from banks, refurbish them and sell them. So a refurbished laptop, we bought many of them for our healthcare group, that normally would cost 20,000 Rand, costs 3,000 Rand. Now, why do you, okay, maybe the battery doesn't last as long as a brand new one, but why are you spending 20? Do you know how much you have to earn? How many clients you have to find to earn 20,000 Rand? After taxes, you have to earn 30,000 Rand. So keep your overheads low. If COVID has shown us something, is that first we learned how to say no to the wants and focus on the needs. We're forced to. And then secondly is, well, hold on, what business am I really in? I'll give you a wonderful example. There's a hotel, I heard this the other day, it was a stunning example of how COVID changed them. Quite a big hotel that had in-house laundry, in-house electrician, you know, the guys who go and fix the room, the television and everything. Well, instead of firing the people, they created flyers for the whole community and said, hi everybody, you can drop your laundry, all the households, you can drop your laundry to us at the hotel every Monday and collect it every Wednesday. If you've got electrical problems or anything is wrong, our electrician and plumbers on standby. So they came up with really innovative ways of using existing infrastructure. Now, I can't tell you how to reinvent yourself, but I can tell you that you're not going to figure it out until you start trying things. And they may feel uncomfortable and you don't know if they'll work. That's why I say make baby steps. Try things with a small audience. Remember what I did with the course? I had 165 people try it. and I got amazing feedback despite what my hesitation originally was with online education.
Right. The last question that I'm going to throw at you before we wrap up says, if a potential partner post the first date meeting asks for a proposal from you and then they never respond, is it fine to walk away? To me, that would indicate unreliability. What are your thoughts?
You know, it depends. It's circumstantial. Are you really in love with this person? What are you in love about them? Are they a very busy person who has a network of gold, and they just are swamped with requests because everybody wants to partner with them? So you know, I can't generalize too much. It's very circumstance specific. However, idiot is you to sending a proposal after the first date. Why did you ask him to get married on the first date? I'm joking. I meant it lovingly, of course. But I am really saying here, you know, take it easy also. Don't get overexcited. You met the love of your life at this meeting. Okay, but is it really the love of your life, or you're feeling a little bit desperate, and you desperately want a partner in this journey? So, you know, play it cool. And ladies have shown guys for many years how to do the dating game properly. Play it a bit cool. Be interested, but not over keen. Go on a couple of dates, chat a little bit more, brainstorm, see how much skin in the game they bring. So I hope that that answers the question in a little bit of a too much relationship analogy way.
But it works. I mean, I think relationships are similar. Business relationships, friendships, you know, co-working relationships, etc. York, unfortunately, we've run out of time. This has been absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to speak to you again about the other courses that you're talking about. The audience, I can imagine, is going to be just as big. And also, I know that you're very active on social media. People can follow you on LinkedIn, connect with you on Twitter as well, and perhaps even ask questions. The playback facility will be available immediately. Well, not immediately after this, but we will, you know, upload it in a day or so. Just remember that all the participants will get 50% off the new course. York, it's been an absolute pleasure. Very insightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you for hosting this, and thank you for everybody for investing your time in me today, in us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and goodbye, everyone.